Wouldn't it just be the most Sabres thing ever to think you finally had a goaltender, sign him to a big 5-year deal, and then they immediately fall right on their face? Hello everyone, Chris here from Ripdog Sports. This is the SaberCast, and today we are continuing with our 23 players in 23 days series leading up to the preseason opener against Columbus. And in this episode, I guess you'd call it, we're talking about the starting netminder for the Buffalo Sabres, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Now, of course, Luukkonen, bit of a controversial figure. I don't know if you say controversial, but a guy that earned a lot of ire last year with his poor play. We're going to look at kind of where he's at in his career. We're going to look at the contract. We're going to look at, is he the guy or is he not going to be the guy? We're going to talk about all those things today. So let's look at Luukkonen. So obviously Luukkonen was a draft pick, a second-round draft pick of the Sabres. He came up through the organization, played in the ECHL, played in the AHL, and eventually earned his stripes and became the starter in Buffalo. He will be entering his 6th professional season this year on the second year of a 5-year, $23.75 million contract, which is quite large, especially for a front office as cheap as the Sabres is. So one of the things that is tough, I think, for fan bases is adjusting. When you have a player that has come up through your system, you typically always think of them as the young guy until they're not, or as a rookie until they're not. Well, this is Luukkonen's 6th professional season, and he has started 151 games in his career. And so he's not a young guy anymore. He's not a prospect. He's still young, but he's not a prospect anymore. He has more starts than Alex Lyon at this point. He is a professional netminder. You'd like to think we know what he is at this point, but he's still a bit of an enigma. So if you look at his career statistics, everything amassed together, he's a career .898 save percentage and a goals against of 3.06, which, again, if you want to say the line for professional netminders is .90 save percentage and 3 goals against, he's a little bit below that line. And yet you say, well, he's a little bit below that line, but the Sabres signed him to a 5-year, almost $24 million contract. Why? Well, a lot of that has to do with his 2023-2024 season. As Sabres fans will know, he was very, very good on a bad team. In that year, he posted a .91 save percentage and a 2.57 goals against. In addition, he posted 5 shutouts over his 54 starts. You know, that's an outstanding year. And if you say, well, that's the guy, that's who he is, that's a fine contract to sign him to. Actually, on 5-year length, you're not dug in for too long. And, you know, a $4.75 million per year is pretty decent for a solid netminder. But in the first year of that contract, disaster struck. As last year, over 55 starts, Luukkonen was only able to post a .887 save percentage and a 3.20 goals against with only 2 shutouts. That is a massive drop-off in form. You can say that some of that is due to the worst play around him. But, I mean, let's be honest, the team was bad in 2023-2024 as well. The overall quality of the team didn't change that much. You might say the defense was worse and the forwards' defensive play was worse, but both teams were bad. And he lost nearly 20 points in his save percentage, and he picked up nearly .7 goals against. That cannot only be explained by the team getting significantly worse around him. And when you go into the advanced statistics, this kind of gets even worse. It shows an even bigger drop-off than those basic stats might indicate. So let's take a look at those advanced statistics comparing 2 years ago, 2023-2024, to last year, 2024-2025. In 23-24, he was actually 19th out of 70 qualified netminders in goals saved above the expectation. But last year, he was 55th out of 65 qualified netminders with a minus 8.6 goals saved above expected. So he let in almost 8 more goals than would be expected based on various things, the quality of the chances and so on. For perspective, we want to look at the people around him. The goalie who was in 54th, the goalie who was ahead of him, was Vitek Vanacek, who was playing for the Sharks for most of the year before going to Florida and lucking into a Stanley Cup, and a guy who has had a sub .89 save percentage the last 2 seasons. Not a guy where if you are supposed to be this franchise stalwart netminder, as Luukkonen is apparently supposed to be, Not good when you're sharing a category with Vitek Vanacek. Not that Vanacek's a terrible goalie, it's just he hasn't played well the last 2 years. If we look at the other numbers, there's not much cause for celebration either. In 23-24, he was 23rd of 70 in the rebounds per save. Last year, he was 49th out of 66 qualified in the rebounds per save, so he dropped significantly there. And then when you look at the save percentage ranking on unblocked low grade, medium grade, and high grade chances, in 23-24, he was 41st on low grade, 7th on medium grade, really good, and 41st on high grade. So basically below average on low and high grade chances and outstanding on medium grade chances. Was that a fluke? Maybe. When we look at 24-25, a more normal distribution, but everything's much, much lower. He was 36th on low grade chances, 47th on medium grade chances, and 64th of 66 on high grade chances. That's a yikes number right there. It means he couldn't keep out any of the high grade chances at all. He could not make a stop when he needed to keep the team in the game. So if you have a defense that's struggling, you need your goalie sometimes to be able to make those saves. Alex Lyon can make those saves. Luukkonen apparently had trouble last year making those saves, and he was never above average at it anyway, if you look at the previous year as well. If he can't replicate his performance in 23-24 against medium grade chances, everything points to an average to below average netminder who is currently being paid like a starter and is being treated like a starter. So obviously this is a big year for Luukkonen. The Sabres have invested a lot in him, so they are inclined to give him a long leash, but they've also invested a bit in Devon Levi. If Luukkonen struggles, is there a window for Levi to come up this year and play? I really don't think so. I think they're going to let Luukkonen play out this year for better or for worse. If it's a disaster, you can still pivot to Levi next year and find a way to maybe move Luukkonen or get him out or fix the contract. You have various weapons at your disposal, and then you can move on to Levi if he has a good year in Rochester. I think it would be a mistake to sacrifice Levi's kind of year to fully develop in order to bail out Luukkonen. I think Luukkonen, this is it. If the team's going to make the playoffs, Luukkonen has to play well. If he struggles and the team's out of it, there's no harm in really keeping him out there, because you're probably going to have to find a way to move on from him anyway if you want to give Levi a shot. The worst case scenario for the Sabres is if both of these players don't pan out, because if Luukkonen doesn't pan out, okay, you lost a second round pick, that's not such a big deal, but you did give him a pretty sizable contract. It'd be unfortunate to lose that. If Levi doesn't pan out, you've basically lost Sam Reinert for nothing as well. So the Sabres have put themselves in a tough position, because if Luukkonen doesn't play well, you almost want to pivot to Levi in order to not have your entire cost kind of destroyed or lost. And honestly, if the Sabres are going to be a playoff team, they desperately need to see the 23-24 Luukkonen. If the 24-25 Luukkonen is here, it means that the Sabres are not going to make the playoffs. While a good goaltender is not going to get you into the playoffs by himself, a bad goaltender can keep you out by himself, especially on a team like the Sabres, which is going heavy into we're going to play good defense, we're going to be tough to play against. Well, a bad goaltender, or goaltender who's struggling, the team is going to be much easier to play against. If it doesn't matter what you do defensively, you're going to give up a goal. And then the Sabres don't have the offense to counter that even now. So it's extremely important to the team philosophy that Luukkonen finds his 23-24 for him. If Luukkonen struggles, will they pivot to Lyon? I think only in the case that they are in the playoff hunt late in the season and they need the guy who's hot. I think if it's January and they're struggling, I think they keep Luukkonen. I don't think Lyon is going to get a legitimate starting look unless Luukkonen's a total disaster and Levi is not, and they don't want to bring Levi up to replace him. But I don't think they view Lyon as a starter, and I don't think they want to put I don't think the front office wants to admit failure enough to put Lyon in at any point as the starter. So it's going to be on Luukkonen. He has to step up, he has to play well. It's going to be on Luukkonen this year. If the Sabres are going to have a shot at the playoffs, the first step is Luukkonen needs to play well. Will he? I have my doubts. I tend to think, as a netminder, he is average to below average. He is an average We've seen maybe his ceiling was 23-24, so he might have a quasi-high ceiling. But I think when we look at his basic play, he's a average to below average netminder. I don't think he's a true starting goaltender in this league. I think he's a long-term solution as a backup, perhaps, for some teams. But I don't think he's a guy who's going to carry the mail. And I don't know if the Sabres have a guy in the organization who is going to be the mail carrier for this team right now. And that's a scary thought, given that where we are in this drought, it's scary. And honestly, it's a failure on this front office. If Luukkonen doesn't pan out and Levi doesn't pan out, that's terrifying, right? That's absolutely terrifying. But you know what? We're Sabres fans. We've been here. We've been in terrifying the last 14 years. So what's another year on the pile? Anyway, hoping for the best for Luukkonen this year. That's about all I have to say about him. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like it. And if you want to leave a comment, if you disagree with what I've said, if you have something to say about the Sabres, if you just want to rant about how terrible the last 14 years have been, use the comment section to do that. I'm happy to respond and argue and discuss with anyone there. So thank you all so much for watching. See y'all next time. As always, go Sabres. Bye-bye.